Welcome to the Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio, coming to you live from Kern County, California, where the flags are always lowered to half-staff after every false flag attack. I'm Gabe, and with me is Sharon. Sharon, don't you think they'd just save a lot of energy if they just kept the flags at half-staff all the time? I mean, there's like a new false flag every other day, it seems, right?
It seems that way, and given the current condition of the world, I think a lot of people would say, yes, keep them at half staff because somebody is dying all the time and there's war and crazy things are happening. The latest false flag being in Belgium, in Brussels. I mean, I can't say for sure if it's a false flag yet, but all signs point to yes. And a lot of these attacks, no matter who is doing them, they just keep reinforcing the fear that people are feeling, and they allow governments to take more and more control because people would rather have security than freedom, it seems.
Yeah, shift the blame here and there. Blame this group of people. Blame these other people. Strange how they never identify the corporations and the tyrannical governments as the people to blame, right?
Well, yeah. And so the fear game is huge now. And a lot of how I've noticed people are looking at the world is either through the eyes of fear or through the eyes of love. And one great example for me, well, this is a crazy video I saw online, and I think this is a great example of how some people view things with fear and some people can actually see the bright side. A friend of mine posted this video of President Obama giving a speech, and the video was also played backwards, and everything played backwards was satanic, and it cracked me up. I mean, to me, this was like the most hysterical thing I ever heard. But my friend, when I responded to her that the video was hilarious, she said, "Oh, I thought it was very chilling." And then I showed this video to another friend. I said, "You got to see this. When he talks backwards, it's hysterical." And she got really upset, almost tearful, and said that the satanic stuff really scared her. Well, why was it that I was able to laugh at this while others were fearful? And I think it has something to do with my outlook, because I don't fear the parasites. I don't fear those that call themselves the archons. And I don't call them archons because that means ruler, and they don't rule me.
That's right. They certainly don't. And also you have a sense of humor, so that helps a little bit, I would think.
I think it's very important to have a sense of humor nowadays. So anyway, if you want a good laugh, in my opinion, it's a good laugh. Check out this video. Just type Barack Obama or President Obama, "Thank you, Satan," because every time he said, "Yes, we can" in the video,
They play it backwards.
and it says, "Thank you, Satan." So I don't know. To me, that's just a laugh riot.
It's comedy gold.
To me, anything played backwards is comedy gold, but that's just me. I'm very immature. But speaking of the fear and the love and what in the world is going on, what is this shift happening today? We have a very, very special guest. Laura Eisenhower is with us today. And Laura is the great-granddaughter of Dwight David Eisenhower. She is an intuitive astrologist, global alchemist, and cosmic mythologist. And Laura, you're on a profound mission to reveal the true origins connected with the Magdalene and Gaia Sophia energies of love and wisdom. And the work you've done is so amazing because you're helping us to liberate from this archonic power structure, the military industrial complex, this corporate tyranny we're living under. And we are just beyond thrilled to have you here today. I had the pleasure of sharing a panel with Laura. We were both on a seminar together back in May, and this talk that Laura did blew my mind. So Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show today to talk with us about this shift going on planet Earth.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, Laura, let's just start off with what in the world is going on. What is this shift that's happening right now energetically on Earth?
I think the energy is incredibly challenging right now. I mean, like what is the shift? Well, we're moving into the quote unquote new paradigm energies. Well, what does that mean? It's certainly not a new age deception, and it's certainly not about entering just a new age without retrieving our ancient knowledge and wisdom. So it's not just like, oh, okay, well, this is some carnival ride that we've never experienced before. To a certain degree, there's a newness to it, but it's based on retrieving and calling back what has been I guess you could say, exiled, programmed, negated, forgotten, unseen, um, and the best place
Intentionally
to
hidden from us.
yeah. I mean, and we can see an obvious sign of this in the medical industry when we look at labels and diagnoses. When really, if you flip it over and you look at things like depression or anger, it's a pretty understandable reaction to the desecration of sacred energy. It's a pretty understandable reaction to, the degradation of our environment, the toxicity that we see in our waters and in our skies, and what level of manipulation there is that is out there. And when we look at things like the election and all these different things that still feel like they're very much a part of the matrix, is that really what the shift is about? No, I think it's you know about stepping back and really looking at it for what it is and coming up with a new model or a new reaction that allows us to be more empowered and more self-responsible and more accountable.
Oh, that's so true. And I mean, the election, that to a lot of people seems like a change, a new leader, a new president. Well, to me, that doesn't represent change at all. It's just more of the same. And it's a false leader. I mean, I personally don't participate in elections. I don't vote for the president of the United States Corporation because I don't think that actually is relevant. So we're talking about a shift. It's not political, it's something deeper involving our very DNA and our energy, right? Is that what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
I totally. And I'm so glad you said that because I've never voted either. I've never ever voted for a president, anybody in government office ever.
It's
And
ironic, I think.
yeah. Yeah, and I failed the citizenship test in high school, and it was required to graduate, and it was questions about government, and I was just like, I have no clue. I can't speak that language, and people are like, aren't you related to a president? And I was like, yeah, but it's a little bit different. Maybe I'm really not being um, groomed, and I'm certainly not holding a passion or interest to play that level of game, and I don't think he was either at all. That's part of what the warning was about, because the government structure is very much about dependency and mind control, and really taking advantage of the vulnerability of us as humans. And so I want nothing to do with it. And so the shift to me is like, what are we made of? What dormant DNA have we not you know looked at for a long time?
Right,
What
Yeah.
about our multidimensional consciousness?
right.
What about our connection to the earth grids and this multidimensional reality? And what is unity consciousness? And to me, the prerequisite to unity consciousness is being fully authentic and really knowing yourself. And I know I say this a lot, and I'm not trying to be redundant here, but you can't really unify if you're going to be programmed and locked in this matrix BS. I'm sorry, you just can't.
Well, many people don't know this, but citizen actually means employee. So you shouldn't feel too bad about failing that test way back
Right. It
then.
means an employee of the United States Corporation. And by the way, I do feel that your great grandfather was different from the other presidents, more of a real leader. But this is a long, long time ago, and I haven't in my lifetime seen that type of leadership. Um, but we talked with our last guest actually about what they call junk DNA, just briefly, that there's a lot of DNA in our body that science just rejects as useless, but in fact, it's locked. And I wonder if this is something you can tell us a little more
Yes. Well, I'd like to look at it like, I mean, okay, if we have had the exile of the divine feminine energies, and we've been dealing with the tree of knowledge, which connects with our DNA, um, these are all metaphorical representations of how our DNA has been impacted. So if we are functioning in a tree of knowledge and we look at mind control, well, knowledge has been targeted, and we're dealing with a distortion in our history books, in everything that we learn about in school. I wouldn't say everything. I mean, that's like saying everybody's in the government's bad. I mean, I just don't want anything to do with it, whether they are good or bad. So that's just my stance. Um,
Right.
and so, when we look at DNA connected to duality, and we look at, you know, maybe a 2-strand, 3-strand, 4-strand level.
Laura, you there?
about. Oh, I think we lost Laura.
Might be considered indigo or crystal
Oh,
kids,
there
but
she
in
is.
actual
Oh,
fact, we have
there you
12-strand DNA potential. And the 12-strand DNA potential connects with the 12-tree grid. It connects with the 12 spheres of this planet. It connects with the 12 stargates. It connects with the 12 planets. It connects with the 12 organs. It connects with our energy body, the meridians, and how that connects in with the earth grids. And so to switch all that on is to really participate in this ascension and to be a truly awakened individual. Now, it's not going to all turn on overnight, but we can at least get on the trail and see where the trail marker is pointing. And that's the best that we can do right now, is to at least get our bearings straight, right? And then the upgrades or the transmissions or whatever you want to call it, based in what's encoded in nature and this core sun within this earth and what's happening in the cosmos, is all a part of that. So it's not as complicated as we think.
Yeah, that's very true. And of course, everything is being done right now to prevent that upgrade, to try and put it off as long as possible, to try and just in general prevent any progress from going on. But yeah, I totally agree with what you say, and that's key. The word, which we're just on this shift here, and nothing can really stop it.
A lot of the work that Gabe and I do, as you know, we work with orgone energy, and that involves realigning. It's not just about cleaning the sky of chemtrails. It's about realigning the electromagnetic grid of the earth. So the next project we're going to get into is earth pipes, which is like acupuncture for the earth, to help to heal those lines, those ley lines within the earth. And you have said so much, and there's so many topics right in there that I want to get more into detail. You mentioned the suppression of the divine feminine, and that's a huge, huge problem right now on our planet. So can you talk more about the divine feminine and how this suppression of this vital energy has gotten us into our current situation?
Yeah, there's a presentation I do where there's just this one painting of Hades taking Persephone down into the underworld, and I'm like, there you have it, folks. That's about as cut and dry as it gets as far as the imprint. Here's the feminine, locked in her own womb and in her own darkness, which is her fertile creativity. It's just like the soil of the earth, right? And it's being contaminated. There's weather modification. There's all this control on nature, and sometimes we put things like the divine feminine or the goddess energy in a box, and that's not where I'm coming from at all. When I talk about the divine feminine, I'm talking about the essence of nature. I'm talking about the divine feminine within men and women, in union with the masculine and balance with the masculine. And so when we want to call that energy back, we're not calling it back all on its own, but there's a certain initiation that has to happen in order for that energy to be fully in its, I guess you could say, either power or in its identity of, hey, something's going on here and something, has not quite lined up for thousands and thousands of years, without taking the approach of, oh, we're victims to this, or we've been screwed over, so let's keep on this battle. It's an initiation. And so again, with junk DNA, when we turn on those strands, we're stepping into the womb, we're stepping into the darkness, but at the same time it's fertile. And it's not just the DNA picture, because that's not exactly what it looks like. When we look at DNA, we're actually looking at different proteins that actually connect with the elements earth, air, fire, water. When we're looking at the masculine and feminine, we're looking at the magnetic female principle, and the antiparticle electric male principle, and how that merged together creates that 0 point. Now there's the rod and staff, the vertical and horizontal, and the right and left. So in each of our bodies, yes, we have a right and left hand. So already the currents of energies, already is connecting the masculine and feminine. But our outer personality or our ego nature can go against this, which can produce things like health issues and, not fully living in sync with nature. And then we have to self-correct, and our body's like, hey, okay, I'm going to produce symptoms so that you can see what's going on here. And then also thousands and thousands of years of somewhat being divorced from nature. It doesn't mean that each individual is divorced, but the general program, and what we see in the governments and what we see in religion is not about us being aligned with nature. And those that are tend to get projected upon. It's all pagan, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that word is an issue, but there's been sort of a smear campaign. And to each their own. I'm not practicing anything. I wake up as Laura, and that's enough for me, and that's more than I can handle. But I do know, and my work has a lot to do with, okay, cosmic laws and natural laws, understanding the earth grids, the masculine and feminine principle. Where did they get unplugged? Where have the dark technologies like made it very difficult for us to heal on a DNA level? And what do we need to do to counteract this and to take the initiative so that we can be the override frequency? Now, it's going to take a little bit of effort. These are not the sort of things that we're just born into this reality and it's just going to be a part of the flow. In actual fact, everything is in reversal. So, we have to, be that much more, I don't want to say the word aggressive, but we have to be that much more bold. We have to be willing to, be ourselves, even if other people project on it and misunderstand it and, act like it's, a serious issue. Let yourself see it as a really twisted compliment if nobody gets you. If you're really connecting with the earth and if you're really connecting with the truth of who you are, you can't really go wrong. And so these energies of the feminine have been, kind of taken out, and the false king of tyranny or the patriarchal energies have been in rulership. That's not a Christ consciousness. And so, we see that, just pulling out our wallet and looking at the amount of, there's only men on the dollar bill. But it's not about a feminist movement either and saying, oh, because Hillary's running for president, let's vote for her because she's female. It's like, she doesn't count because she's not human. And I say this in
I
interviews.
agree.
So, and so everything is sort of set up to make us, to make it feel like we're making progress when those programmings were installed in order to dupe us during this window period. The true essence of the divine feminine is very much just a part of that relationship with the masculine, and it's our right and left hand. It's that, and it's an energy that's already working together. We just need our ego to be able to represent it very, with just the capacity to walk in our truth.
You said something so valuable about how we have to be who we are, and I'm just going to reveal some personal information about myself that I.
Whoa! Hold on.
No, it's
okay. Now,
okay. I recently left a soul sucking job, which I was still in when we did our when we had that conference together back in May, and I was still in that job and still in that matrix at that time, and I left it soon after that to pursue a life of planetary healing. And I've been going back and forth. I feel like sometimes I'm thrilled I left that world. And then sometimes I think, oh my God, what did I do? Now how am I going to survive? Now everything's so much more difficult, financially. So I've managed to survive all these months, and I've had opportunities come up that allowed me to stay afloat. But I always doubt it. And then I wonder, am I hearing my voice when I hear the doubt, or am I hearing something from outside of myself? Because I've actually dedicated my life towards healing the earth. That's what I do, and Gabriel too. So it confuses me, and I'm sure this kind of thing confuses a lot of people. What are these voices? What are these two sides that are tugging at us?
We could have a whole episode just exclusively about MK Ultra mind control.
Well, I'm not under MK Ultra, but I am under mind control because I'm a human being on Earth, and all human beings are breaking programs.
That's right.
That's what I'm kind of curious, Laura, about this push and pull. What are these two sides?
Breaking programs and also activating those inert DNA strands that you were talking about.
Yeah. Well, we have to look at it almost like a detox. We're going to hear that part of us that still has an addiction pattern because there's, money and instant gratification and something that feels rewarding that comes from it. Now, the deeper and truer part of you knows that that's not where it's at, that the true currency of the universe is love, and that abundance comes from, these different energetics at play that, have to do with really engaging in your truth, your mission, your purpose, and being real and standing up for what you believe in. Now, belief is one of those words, but our body tells us, if our beliefs are healthy or not. So we have to always check in with our physical bodies and say, okay, well, is this really serving me? So I think it's difficult.
That currency of love, is that currency of love a fiat currency, or is it backed by precious metals? Just wondering.
Haha, right. Well, I think the currency of love, it's going to manifest in all different forms, whether it be, somebody buying you a cup of coffee when you least expect it, or, there being like a huge, maybe more entering your bank account than you expected, or, something else. the whole deal is that you will be taken care of. If you're not being led astray into a matrix program that has to do with exploiting others and using others and vampiring off of others, where yes, there might be gain, but it's not real gain because there's no real balance or good conscience connected to it. I don't know what your job was. I can't imagine that it was, anything terrible, but I've had, jobs too. And I'm a mother, I'm in survival a lot. And I'm like, I don't need to go into survival. I can manifest I can manifest my needs. And if I need to, maybe spend more than I think that I have, I mean, what am I investing in? And I also have to cut myself a lot of slack if it was, invested in something that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of value at the end of the day, but it might have been a coping mechanism for that moment I was in. So I think we have to stay in a constant process and dialogue with ourselves to stay in a flow of co-creativity, versus being stagnant or being blocked or being maybe going overboard where the work becomes more important than maybe relationship or taking care of the self. So I think you're just going to navigate it fine. I mean, I'm doing my best too. And I think there's just going to be a lot of different ways of perceiving it, and in each moment, it'll be real to you, but you'll either have a revelation to break down the program, or you'll be hearing what you need to hear in order to make sure that you take care of maybe your immediate needs, because maybe it's not time yet to fully step away from it completely and totally. But you're definitely on your way. I mean, that's what I'm sensing. So
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case. And actually, the work was fine. I didn't mind the job. It was that I was working for an abusive psychopath. So the work itself was fine. And I liked the fact that it sustained me and allowed me to gift organite. And during the time I was at that job, I made enough money to be able to gift organite without having to even think about it. But yeah, the problem is in those environments, a lot of the time when people get ahead, it's a psychopathic behavior that gets them there. And if somebody is a loving and open individual, then they're going to get, that abuse at the hands of someone who doesn't understand that type of energy. That's ultimately why I had to leave, is I didn't have time to do my planetary healing work and be there. And I was being bombarded with abuse. Like the whole time I was there, it was just, I couldn't take it anymore.
Well, speaking of psychopathic behavior, I mean, obviously, I think most anyone would agree that throughout history, any proponents of truth in the world are just treated absolutely maliciously, while at the same time psychopathic behavior is encouraged, and not just encouraged but rewarded. But however, it just seems to me notably in the past few months, that this seems to be especially the case. So Laura, do you like me notice this general increase in the attacks against good people?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know, up from right, left, up from down. I mean, I feel so attacked. Like, and I don't like to say like, oh, I'm being targeted and attacked.
Yeah. This is not a playing the victim card thing. I totally know what you're saying.
But it's like, it's ridiculous. I mean, my nervous system couldn't be more shot. I couldn't feel more ungrounded. I've invested in so many different supplements, and we're not just talking empty supplements of like, oh, I'm just going on the internet. Like, my background is very much in nutrition, and I had one of the first organic food shipping and delivery companies before Whole Foods. I know my shit pretty well. Excuse my, oh my God, excuse me.
It's okay. It's the internet.
It's okay.
I know my right?
Two demerits for every cuss word. So you're doing better than most people.
Good. It's just a part of my
You're in big trouble.
Yay.
Missy.
So yeah, I've been, doing everything that I possibly can to stay grounded, to, process out, whatever excess energies might be there. I'm doing all I can to, release emotions when I need to. I get angry when I feel it's justified. I don't know. It just seems like it's relentless, and it's not comfortable. And I'm actually in a really weird place right now, just wondering when is this going to just quit? I mean, it's just like unbelievable. And we have to look at it like, I mean, when we're kids or we're growing up, or just, we're here to become senior to these lower forces. We're not here to run from it or, I mean, we need to shield, but we can't, completely like get the hell away. I mean, maybe some people can, and that's great. Whatever you're called to do is what you're called to do. But when we're in it and we wake up in it, our body is expanding. Our body is upgrading. We're these forces are okay. These artificial forces are catalysts, and these organic forces are guides, that are helping us to move into these initiations so that we can, experience the full capacity of, what we're really made of. And when we can do that, we can handle these level of assaults. But, there's all sorts of things that want to trigger our emotional bodies, our wounds, and the things that, make us want to just crawl into a fetal position. And I don't care where I am. Sometimes I'm like, that's a nice hedge over there with some nice flowers. I'm just going to crawl into a ball and just hide behind there. I don't even want to. Okay, well, it's not that bad. Well, maybe it is.
Well, steer clear of the poison oak. That's all.
Laura,
I can say.
it's kind of, the fact that you're saying this, the fact that you're saying this is something that will help a lot of people, because I know many people are going through the same thing, and you're somebody that I admire greatly and many people admire, and you're handling it so well, and you have so much insight. So if you can say this, it's so helpful to so many people.
Including us.
And really, Laura, it's been the same for me. It's been like relentless attacks. I don't even want to get into it, but it's been like constant for some time.
Yeah, it's beyond anything. I mean, the thing is, there's a difference between a person that's, awakened or conscious, and how the energies feel. There's more of an allergic reaction. When you're blindly controlled or unconscious, you don't really notice these things. You're just kind of going along with the program, and it's not going to affect you as much. There might be physical symptoms, but you're so busy medicating it or just thinking that this is just what being human is. You don't lift up the veil, or you don't look, at what's operating behind the scenes to get a real grip on it so that you can truly heal. You're just like, oh, I'll just get my acetaminophen or my aspirin or my and I think people like you and me and Gabe, we don't operate like that. It's it's something to look at and say, okay, well, what the hell is this? I'm not just going to give my power away and just go on something. My body's trying to tell me something. And so I would say that I'm going, and I think we all are going through a rapid, accelerated period of something's trying to tell us something. And ultimately, we're only going to bring out, wisdom and empowerment. But oh my God, can you just like lay off for a couple days? Just
Tell me about it. It is relentless. And I think part of what's going on here is mind control of the masses. So if you're a person who is conscious and doing the right thing, and those, what you call archons, which we call askhorns, because, we just don't want to give them that respect, but they're going to use whatever they can to mind control the people around. So in my life personally.
Are you there?
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me now? Well, we've been having some problems with the connection today, but let me see if we can get Laura back. Laura, are you there? Naturally during these kind of conversations. Are you there? Okay. So Gabriel, I would ask you to go get a piece of organite, preferably with shungite in it. Do you mind stepping away and getting that? Because whenever I have these kinds of conversations via Skype for radio, the same thing happens. We get cut off. And I put a crystal on the computer right after this happened, and it's a beautiful wrapped crystal that is very, very powerful. It's wrapped in gold, silver, and copper, and I made it specifically by request for someone as a healing tool. And this helped get back the conversation earlier, but what I found works even better is a powerful piece of organite on the computer usually helps to restore the signal. Laura, are you there?
I am. Hi.
Good. We just restored the signal. We've been having problems because of the nature of this conversation. And this happens over and over again via Skype. The powers that wannabe who run this network of computer wiring and Wi-Fi mess like to cut off these kind of conversations. But I think we got you back. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Okay. We just put the shungite organite. That one works really well to restore these conversations.
The parasites must really be freaking out right now.
They are, because they got Laura on here, telling it like it is. And on American Freedom Radio, of all places. I was just mentioning the mind control aspect. People who have some position of authority in my life had been very mind controlled recently to do crazy abusive things that don't even make sense. And they weren't even acting like they were acting when I first met them. And a lot of how the mind control happens is through electromagnetic frequencies, those smart meters on the houses, the Wi-Fi. With the Wi-Fi, I hear people saying regularly, I had thoughts that weren't my own. when they have that Wi-Fi on. So that is definitely part of what's going on here, I think, is the mind control aspect.
It is. The one thing that I haven't slipped into is I do feel my thoughts are my own, but they are very self-defeating. But I can trace them back to, oh, well, you were interrupted a whole bunch of times, growing up, nobody really understood you. And, oh, you processed a lot of past lives and you were persecuted for this or that. And, or you weren't even in this, earth realm. And I mean, we can find ways to make sense out of, certain things. But there are, okay, I guess I just want to say, and which is really weird because I'm almost patting myself on the back, like, wait, Laura, your thoughts at least are your own. They're not necessarily fluffy and positive all the time, but they're not telling you to do something that isn't coming from your internal core. Now, if that's happening to somebody, I'm not saying, oh, let's just like build up the fact that that's not happening to me. I work with people that have this happening to them. And what it is it's like a radio station. It just comes in and it dictates something to you. I've had partners like that. I mean, when I was recruited to go to Mars, this is exactly what was going on. And I said, this is artificial telepathy. This is not coming from the true nature of this particular individual. They're not operating from their intuition. They're operating from outside external instructions. And so in order to fry those circuits, you have to be really, almost rebellious. And it doesn't mean you have to go into a negative zone of screw everybody and I'm not going to listen to anybody and everything except for my own inner truth is, everything else is crap. But there's no harm with just, owning that feeling for at least a couple weeks, kind of like if we do a detox, there's a healing crisis. If you're going to have a lot of green foods and your body's going to like revolt and say, oh my God, what are you doing? You're getting rid of all this stuff. So we have to, be on guard. We have to, ask ourselves, if there's mind control, well, what's the solution? Free thinking, being able to have your own thoughts and create from those thoughts. And if you don't step on the treadmill, though, you're not going to exercise those muscles and it's going to be atrophied and you're going to be allowing this other thing to run the show and you're not going to think twice about it because the part of you that could be empowered is running out of breath or is out of breath because it's not used to that. And so you just got to allow yourself, whether that means you hang out with somebody that just really loves you for who you are, or you just write or do something artistic, just getting real comfortable with your own thoughts and frequency is the most important thing, because once you reach a certain level, you can fry and disable those energies from coming in and tell.
Lost her again.
As soon as you started talking about disabling energy.
Okay, go back to the, we lost you for a second there.
As soon as you said disabling.
Yeah, so how do we disable those energies, Laura?
Well, I mean, it's a frequency battle in a lot of ways, but we don't want to, necessarily look at the word battle because it feels like duality and like we're, always fighting something. But it's becoming senior to these lower energies by always coming up with a better idea or a better thought form, and just encouraging yourself to go that extra mile in order to, be, in a much better place. It's similar, to food. I mean, everything is energy. I was talking about this in my presentation. When we make a meal, we do dishes. We have no issue. Well, I mean, I think we all sort of have issues with some of the dishes, like the too many dishes. But there's a byproduct to things. But we don't do enough energetic maintenance, and there's accumulation. And when accumulation happens, it makes it very difficult to operate from, your core intuition. You might be carrying somebody else's stuff that you absorbed at the grocery store. You might be carrying, your mother's complaints or her health issues or your partner's dissatisfaction. Yeah, I mean, depending on the health of that relationship, of course, or something from your past or some sort of wound or some sort of, distortion that allows these frequency matches to come in, and your brain is so overloaded that, it's kind of like, if there's a ton of dishes in the sink, you're not going to want it's just piling up. So what do? You have to stand there and just get through it, and be glad that you took the time, or you just want to be preventative and you just want to catch it every time you use something. It's like, okay, I'm using my mind. okay, I was exposed to a lot of people, I was around a lot of different energies. How can I maintain a clear energy field so that I'm always operating from my core truth? Because if I don't clear, then it's very easy to get distracted by other things that aren't ours. And I don't want to, get off topic too much, but another way, high vibrations, like music, tuned to 432, 28, essential oils, crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls, things that can, help our frequency and vibration, is really important. And, really being real. And if you have to apologize and modify it later, so be it. But at least you're being yourself, because to shove things down or to be anything but yourself, is basically allowing your creative energy to be plugged into something that's not true to you. And for us to find balance, we have to move through these different elemental energies. And sometimes they're not always going to, we see that in nature. It can rain a lot in certain places. Does that mean that there's imbalance in nature? No, that's just what the location is calling forth. And we all have our affinity towards different elements. And so the more real we can be with it, the less judgment we're going to have on it, because the judgment is a programming all in of itself, which allows these other things to come in too. So, I think there's just a great need for a lot more self-love and respect, and also a lot of self-forgiveness and cutting ourselves a lot of slack, because these manipulations are very old and they've been embedded in our culture for thousands of years, as we know.
Absolutely. And that actually segues perfectly into my next question. Can you talk for a bit about the 100th monkey effect and how it relates to the energetic shift that is currently underway on this planet?
Well, I think, it's that tipping point. When somebody really positive walks into the room, sometimes it can offset whatever energy is maybe being held on to. It depends what the context or the theme is of maybe a gathering. I'm not talking about let's just walk into Starbucks and change the vibration. Everybody's in their own little world. And do we really want to go to Starbucks? No, let's go to the better
disable
coffee.
The Wi-Fi box.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't necessarily want that. But so the 100th monkey, if we're looking at on a larger scale, the best place I think to really understand this is to look at a book like Power versus Force by, I think it was David Hawkins. Basically, there's frequencies based in logarithms. And if you're vibrating at a frequency over 500 being love, 1,000 being enlightenment, and enlightenment is one of those words like ascension. Like, what does that really mean? To me, it's like energetic maintenance. We're all enlightened, but we have to tend to the garden, or else, that enlightenment can be strangled or contaminated. But the core essence of it is not able to be contaminated. But, these surface layers that might make it difficult for us to reach it or exist in it. So a frequency 500 and above can offset somebody carrying a lower vibration that's below 500. So one person calibrating above 500 can offset millions of people, that are in a lower energy. And so that reminds us that we all have an amazing purpose. Dr. Dream actually talks about this a lot in his presentations. And, when I, think about, just influencers. When I was in the field doing expedition leadership and just going into the school system, everything for me, was made or broken by the quality of the teacher in a lot of ways. And if it wasn't about the teacher, it was about me spacing out enough and detaching enough to be able to, educate myself and find my own information, which was more the norm. But, there's nothing like holding a certain energy and inviting people to match your high energy rather than going into the lower energy of just matching, whatever the cool thing is, whatever's trendy, or whatever everybody is sort of gravitating for. Because, I think it creates a certain level of discomfort where it actually builds upon, insecurities and people end up wearing masks and facades. And so anyway, just to kind of break it down here, the 100th monkey, it might be, some sort of breakthrough or invention or revelation. It becomes a resource. It becomes part of the morphogenetic field. It becomes a part of the energetic atmosphere landscape of our world. And when enough people catch on to it, you can awaken. All these souls can be awakened without having to do the heavy lifting.
That's right.
They might not.
And
thank us.
we encounter a lot of people in our work that are just freaking out right now and thinking that everyone in the world has to be woken up, and it's simply not the case.
It's not the case.
It's just a small fraction of them.
that's the reason we gift Organite. It's not just to clean the environment, not just to clean chemtrails out of the sky, but to give people that higher energy where they might not even know it's there, but we put it in their community, and it helps to clear up some of the electromagnetic mess, all that static that's keeping them down. It's keeping their potentials lowered. So people might not even know it, but we can do work that helps them, and they will start to come up in level and start to understand these things. And I mean, like, I heard a story that we gave a large Organite piece to a couple of friends as a gift. And they said that two of their neighbors who were fighting all the time just stopped fighting and started having nice conversations just by them putting this piece of Organite out there. So that, I mean, that's an energetic device to help people clear some of that static. There are other ways to do it too. And I mean, a lot of the time, just having a clear heart and a positive attitude makes all the difference.
And that's very hard to have that when there's all that interference, that frequency fence all around. And it's just about removing that element so that people can do what's natural, which is to rise up and raise their vibration and get out of the lower blue pill state and into something a little more enlightening.
So I tell people, especially those who are completely freaked out of their minds about chemtrails, don't worry about the chemtrails. Just get some Organite, and get rid of them. And, it'll take care of your neighborhood too and make everybody feel better.
Right. And also don't worry about waking up your friends and neighbors. Plant seeds, let them be in the speed in which, works for them, because, similar to bringing in too many high vibrational energies into the body can go into shock because it's used to, this lower density. And so we can't ascend too quickly without, we got to be really gentle with our physical body as we raise the vibration, as we also have to be gentle with ourselves as we deconstruct, and we can't be too pushy. But it's important, and you can tell when certain people are in front of you and they're asking for you to be pushy, or please plant a seed, or please, put it in my face. But at the same time, it's not about stopping, what the inner voice is saying or what the passion is dictating. It's allowing one to not be crushed by the response, though. And I like to tell clients, I'm like, look at it like you're in a parade and you're just throwing stuff out to the crowd, and let's not make it candy, let's make it something healthier. But if you were to get out and pay attention to who picks it up, right. If you were to get out and pay attention to who picks it up and eats it and who puts it in their pocket and who just steps on it and doesn't care, you're going to be incredibly overwhelmed, and you're going to lose your focus and your center, but if we allow ourselves to just be a resource, and we're just throwing it out to people, you can take it or leave it, a huge portion of that energy is going to be, seed planting. Another portion will be, okay, I'll put it in my back pocket till later, which is similar. And the thing is, there's a lot of different levels of awakening. Sometimes it's okay, yes, we've been lied to. We are in a world of immense corruption, and there's all sorts of things going on behind the scenes that are just horrific to wrap one's head around. But another level of awakening is, how can you walk around in this matrix and make heart-to-heart connections and see a person for who they truly are, and not hold them to whatever job they have just because it might not be, perfectly it might not be perfectly in sync with what the environment wants. Well, those changes will happen, but they're not going to happen if we're constantly at war with each other or in this judgment. So true unity consciousness, to me, it's like warming up the muscles before we do deep tissue. Let's at least just know how to get along, and then we can really, start to inspire each other to, change the world. But if we're stepping, back, in judgment because, of what we see, because they're not quite there yet, we're going to stay fragmented as a humanity.
Yeah, I think George Carlin a number of years back said, save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves yet. We haven't learned to care for one another. We're going to save the planet?
Well, I'm really glad you said what you just did, because so many people think they have to convince other people, and they say, like, I have to hammer it into people's heads what's going on. And it's just not the way.
Well,
and
people's impatience is also to blame for a lot of that happening.
Well, yeah, but to call people sheeple, it was funny to me when I first heard it, but the fact is it's a judgmental term that says you're just a sheep if you don't believe what I believe, if you don't know what I know. But True. I could tell you this, 10 years ago, I didn't know what a chemtrail was at all. I didn't know they were even spraying them, and they were spraying them over my house every day, and I was feeling sick all the time, but I had no idea why. But was I a sheeple? Well, I don't think so. I'm now actively fighting it. because I learned. And one awakening leads to another. So once you figure out one thing, you'll figure out others. So I try to stay away from judgmental terms too. And I don't try to convince anyone of anything. We are all on our own journeys.
We just compile our mountain of empirical evidence, and people can use their own discernment. That's the most important thing.
But you have to do that. I mean, you have to do that. I mean, if you didn't, I know there's a fine line or a balance. And I think you guys just do brilliant because, if you think about it, if you're hearing a child cry out because something's going on or the teacher's doing something weird and everybody's like, oh, I don't believe you. You're actually saying, I'm not taking you seriously. So therefore I'm not stepping in and all these other people are in danger. And for some reason that information came to you, to me, and to that person, hypothetically. You can't just sit back and not do something, but then there's an art to how, one does it. And for me, I'm always modifying it and shifting it and changing it. Every family gathering, every time I'm around friends that it's like, okay, well, let me try this way. Let me try that way. And it's like, okay, well, that didn't really work. Okay, well, let me,
yeah.
And I'll never really have the formula because it's not about this is the way we should be doing it. You've got your way. I've got my way. I adjusted. I'm flexible. I'm a work in progress. And I realize, okay, well, I can be a chameleon. Everybody's different. And this conversation is going to be different with this person than it is, with this other person. But, it's.
Oh, yeah, we lost Laura again.
But we also want to keep a high vibration, as we do it.
That's very, very true. Well, we're going to actually have to go to a break in a few minutes. I wanted to give you a chance to talk about your website where people can learn about your stuff and what you're doing and your current projects.
Well, my website's cosmicgaiasophia.com, and it's basically just in the name, it's, helping us to see that the planetary body is a cosmic multidimensional planet. It's not just this 3D thing that we're led to believe. In actual fact, it's a multidimensional planet, and we've just been limited in our belief systems. So I guess the theme of my website is, how we can expand beyond that and stay grounded, and, how we can restore the tree of life, which is our DNA template. The different projects I have going on. I mean, I do a lot of events. I'm working on a book. And I do readings and sessions. So if you go to my website and you look in the top right-hand corner, you'll see, the consultations and the readings that I offer. But projects are projects. They have kind of a mind of their own. And then at the same time, it's like we're directing it and we're needing to manage it. But I don't have an update when certain things are going to be released. But I'm always doing sessions and consultations. And that's cosmicgaiasophia.com.
And that's Sophia with a PH.
Yes.
Yes. And that refers to our earth, right?
Yeah. And the Sophia energy is means wisdom, and it's connected to, the Christ Sophia, the masculine and feminine. And these names don't really matter. I mean, if we want to move away from the names, which I encourage, I mean, it's just the balance of the masculine and feminine, the Christ consciousness and the goddess energy. And, it's how the masculine should be a guardian and steward for the planet. And within each gender, whether we're in a female body or a male body, we've got the masculine and feminine energies, and we need to love and support and protect our feminine, and we need to deprogram the negative ego so that it can stand in that high vibration of Christ consciousness. But those names don't matter. I mean, this is something that soul alchemy and initiations can bring us into. And yes, we can refer to people like, oh, that prophet or that master, but it's not about putting that being in above us. It's about understanding that everything that we could possibly need is within us to be able to get to that level of consciousness and awareness.
Well, awesome. That's cosmicgaiasophia.com. And also our website, Gabe and I have a website, thechembo.com. That's THECHEMBOW.com. And if you're enjoying the show and you like our work, chembusting California and beyond, and you want to help support our work, come visit our site. You can learn all about chemtrails, geoengineering, EMF, and the solution, orgone energy. We've got orgonites for sale as low as $10 for really powerful pieces. So please support our work if you like what we're doing. And if you can't afford to buy orgonite, I have a video that teaches you how to make your own.
There's nothing more empowering than making your own orgonite, setting it out there and watching and see what it does to the sky.
Yeah, pretty awesome. And we encourage everyone to learn about orgone energy. Well, we have a few more minutes till our break. So I would like to, I don't know if we're going to be able to get fully into this topic until afterwards, but I would like to talk a little about Earth as a living being. Since your website is Cosmic Gaia Sophia, and that's referring to our Earth, I am aware of our Earth as being a female living being. And so I'd like to understand it a little bit more, and I'm sure everyone wants to know more about how our Earth is a being.
Gosh, if I can articulate that in just a couple sentences, that'll be a miracle. So yes.
Well, we'll have a whole other hour to get into it.
If you want to just give a little brief intro into that, we can always come back.
We'll definitely cover that.
Yes. Well, we are in a free will universe. We used to be in higher dimensional Earth energies. When we look at our 12-strand DNA potential and the fact that we used to embody 12-strand avatar consciousness, we also have something called the spectrum of frequency, which is a 15-dimensional chakra embodied awareness. Now, obviously, we're not fully in that awareness. We've been locked into 7 chakras. We've lost our capacity to be aware of our galactic chakras. And so when we get back on the show, I'll talk about how to initiate ourselves back into that galactic awareness and how that is the ascension and how it's bringing Milky Way and Andromeda back together, and also healing a lot of the galactic wars and the masculine and feminine. And but it also tells the story of the origins of how this planetary body became Mother Earth, feminine.
That's awesome. I would like to get more into that because I am not aware of any chakras beyond the ones that we're taught about. So this is interesting that we can activate our bodies and our minds in so much of a higher way. I also am aware that the Earth has chakra points, which I found very interesting when we learned about Rainbow Thunderhearts. He used to be known as Blue Thunder, doing medicine wheel ceremonies at the various chakra points of the Earth, the sacred sites. So that's fascinating to know that we can actually go beyond the 7 that we're aware of. And
well, even if you're not aware of it, you're already there. Like, you didn't even have to know that, but you're vibrating at chakras so beyond the 7. That's what's so funny. Anyway, I had to say that.
Is that me or everybody?
No, you. But
just you. Only you.
Well, thank you, Laura. Well, we will be right back. You're listening to The Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio with our very special guest, Laura Eisenhower.
Please go and check out her website, cosmicgaiasophia.com, and please check out our website, thekembo.com. We have links to our blog on there as well, and our Etsy store, where you can buy organite for your home and for gifting.
And your pet.
Join us in hour 2. We'll be right back after this.
No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back to The Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio. This is hour 2, and we are still joined by our lovely guest, Laura Eisenhower. Laura, you were talking about how the Earth, our planet, is actually a living being, a living female being. Can we talk a little bit more about that?
I can't hear you.
Oh, we've been having a lot of connection problems today due to the nature of this conversation. Laura, as soon as you hear me, oh, it looks like we lost Laura again.
Again.
It's been really difficult today. Laura is a very divine being, and she's doing amazing work on this planet to teach people about these sacred energies. And I think that actually talking like this makes it's very difficult when you have a conversation like this via Skype and you're trying to have
especially where Wi-Fi is involved.
I'm going to try to add Laura back into this conversation right now.
This is a wonderful episode. I'm actually learning a lot about the things that she's talking about. This is very good for me, and we are taking calls if anyone wants to call in.
Oh, the phone number is 218-339-8525. So if you have any questions, please call us up.
We will answer your questions as succinctly as possible.
Yeah, right now we're still trying to get Laura back. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on energetically here. We've been doing a lot of work in California to restore the natural balance. Oh, I think we have Laura back. So if Laura's back, then we'll talk to Laura.
Laura, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So Gabe and I will talk about
until the next time we get cut off.
Yeah, Gabe and I were just going to segue into some other stuff we were doing here in California. So now that we've got you back, Gabe and I can talk anytime about that. So let's get back to the Earth as a whole.
A living being.
Like us.
Yes. It's very interesting because we are really the living microcosm of the macro. And I know it almost sounds like, well, that's a nice thing to think about, but it's true. I mean, it really is true. When we look at, even our palms or iridology or all the different maps and all the different signs that our body is trying to, show us, like this greater story, this greater connection to not just, past lives, or our deeper soul journey, but the history of this earth and us as star seeds and our genetics, in terms of ETs and things that are off planet. Now, when we think of something or we think of anything off planet, we have to consider that if we're multidimensional beings, we have the 12-strand DNA, we have 15 chakras. Now, I'm not going to limit to that because the 12-strand DNA can become 24-strand, which can become 48-strand, which can continue to multiply and become a lot more than we can even imagine. But this is sort of the construct that we're working with. When we look at things like the Dracos and the Anunnaki, they purposely traded in their DNA so that they could program us to hold a frequency that would keep us from being able to turn these strands on, which would allow us to move beyond this galaxy or this particular time loop or time matrix that they want to police and control. So they, in doing that, compromise themselves and have been a very vampiric force, which has led to the digression of their energies. So when we look at things like abduction or, artificial intelligence or the life cycle of certain extraterrestrial races that aren't connected to, plugging in or I don't want to say the word plugging, having direct connection with spirit, then you're dealing with, a certain level of, manipulation that is requiring or needing a food source. But
I think I can speak for all people and say, what a bunch of dorks.
Seriously. Yeah. I like to say that a lot, and just kind of like, wow, okay. That's what kind of life is that? What kind of, and just sitting around, the boardroom thinking of how you can screw over humanity next with your next false flag plan. It's just really, sad for what? What's terrible about, connecting directly with source? Well,
I was saying earlier, they're in desperation mode right now. So it's going to be one thing after another till they're banished.
And actually what you're saying is they cannot connect to source, which means that they're limited to a 3D view of reality. Is that correct?
Well, they can police things from, like the lower astral realms. They can go into dimensional energies that are above, the fourth dimension. And there's a lot of, really powerful technologies that have been put in very significant places on this planetary body in order to affect the ley lines, the earth grids, and also in turn that affects our DNA because our DNA is directly linked with the earth grids. The stargates are linked to, these power centers in our bodies and our organs, and, our capacity to travel beyond this particular density is very connected with this. Now, when there were cataclysms and exploded planets in our ancient history, being impacted in and being in physical therapy. We've been in physical therapy as a human race, learning how to, get our memory back. We've had amnesia and, but we've been in this life, death, rebirth, cycle as well. So the planetary body being feminine is a part of the rescue mission. Because we sank in density, because we sank in harmonic universe, we were dimensions 4, 5, and 6 and beyond. We were also, in Gaia, we had 12-strand DNA potential. But the thing is, these energies are still alive and well. It's all existing simultaneously, which kind of erases the past, present, future. Because the thing is, if we expand and we're conscious of it, we can experience it. We don't need, except the difference between what happened maybe then and now is that there's galactic wars or memories. Now, not all those memories are going to be the same.
Okay. I'm hearing part of what you're saying.
We need to, well, when we sank, when Atlantis.
No, we literally are
hearing part of what you're saying. Hey, Laura,
Okay.
You're cutting out. So let's backtrack. Okay, we have these cataclysms happening on ley lines of the Earth. Like, I am aware that something like a nuclear tests and things like this are being done to compromise the Earth.
That was later. Now we're dealing with root races like Atlantis, Lemuria. Different root races. Before the root races, we had the original Atlantis and Lemuria, in a body called Tiamat that exploded, and all of this led to the collapsing into harmonic universe 1, which created this, I guess you could call it, the 3D Earth. Now the goddess energy morphed with the dimensional seed, which is why this is an ascension planet. So when we're experiencing this ascension, which connects with the 14 and 15, known as the Trinity, but beyond the Trinity is the 0 point, and the 0 point is the neutron window into other galaxies, and actually into other universes. So there's so much more than we can imagine, but the beauty is that we hold all of it. Now certain things are dormant and not turned on, but it's like a great idea that you can have all of a sudden, and also then your whole life can change. You have to have the willingness to have that epiphany, or to manifest that experience to help you to perceive it. But that's where we reconnect with our galactic star family. We carry these genetics, but because of these cataclysms and the planetary body being thrown, it affected our into DNA was tinkered with, and there were frequency fences put in and all sorts of things that have made it very difficult for us to ascend. But this planetary body, as Mother Earth, I look at it like a holding tank. Like, she's allowing her resources to be poisoned to a certain degree to help us to see where we're going wrong so we can wake up. Because she could wipe us out.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is fascinating, because I have there's something that I have to say about chemtrails, because that's my area of knowledge. But people think it's crazy when I say this. The chemtrails are the greatest gift in my life, because they pointed me to what's happening and how to expand my consciousness to eliminate that problem on this planet.
And so many others. With it.
But it's like these problems on Earth are actually a blessing, because they point us in the direction.
Yeah, a lot of people have a hard time with that one.
Right. And so, somebody like you guys, it's like a doctor. You understand medicine, you understand the assault, you understand the symptoms, but you also know the antidote and the solution. So you get the whole picture. There's no denial. There's no, quick fixes, or, let's sugarcoat this, or let's pretend it doesn't exist. That's why I admire you both so much. I mean, beyond words. I mean, I don't know if there are words.
Thank Laura, you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel the same about you.
and also staying on the hamster wheel of fear either, because there's a lot of that. We get a lot of that in the work we do. There's a lot of that fear mentality going on, especially now, just more and more so. And that is what we have to combat daily.
Laura, one of the most inspiring things that I heard you say at your talk back in May, and I'm not sure if you said it to me or if you said it in the talk, I just remember you saying that we can vibrate above all of these problems, and we get to a point where they don't even touch us. That was amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost
Or-
like, if you're in a relationship, that's abusive and, there's cheating and there's lying. Once you survive that, once you become empowered, once you see through it, once you are willing to walk away, I mean, you can't repeat that, but if you stay disempowered, if, you repeat the same sort of relationship scenario because that individual ended up leaving you and you didn't wake up to it, and instead you chased him down because you were needy or needed companionship, even if it was detrimental to your own self-worth. I mean, that's a whole nother scenario. And so we can rise above all of this, and the laws of this exist in our own physical body. And I use this example a lot, but I think it's an important one because if we're not well, we have an immune system, but it's not going to do all the work for us. It's not going to say, oh, okay, I see you have a symptom. I see that, you're catching this, and you're not living, the highest sort of life that you could be living, or you're not stepping up to the plate. It's not going to do the work for us. But if we say, okay, I'm ready and I'm willing, and I'm going to shift my belief systems, and I'm going to change my diet, and I'm going to, really, love myself, then you've created this relationship, and the magic really starts to happen from that point on. Same thing with connecting with, whether you want to, whether it's higher dimensional beings, which I think we have to be somewhat careful of until we fully know ourselves. But, the same thing with these, difficult energies. What is the greater message? We're being controlled. We're being wronged. Well, that means we need to divorce the people that are doing it, and find true love. And true love.
Absolutely.
Of what we're made of, and finding those authentic relationships that allow us to live that out and enjoy it, instead of the things that keep us in a box and keep us stuck in these, weird energies that are, and I kind of joke, like, if you're with somebody like that, you can say you're being a chemtrail. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
That's so funny.
Maybe that'll be the newest trend.
Yeah, you chemtrail.
Yeah.
But
our previous guest actually had a very interesting point. He said that 98% of the people on this planet are having their realities dictated to them by someone or something else.
Right.
So that totally makes sense what you're saying.
I saw a bunch of them on Metro. We were in LA last week and we rode the Metro. Gabe and I are big public transportation riders, at least when we were in LA, which is where we lived until recently.
Which is as infrequently as possible.
Well, now, but when we were in LA, we were on it all the time. And I saw these girls and one transgender person sitting together, and they were listening to some terrible music and getting really excited about it, and just talking really loud and looking at their phones and taking pictures of each other with their phones and themselves. And then somebody on another train car played his phone out loud, playing some terrible music. And then they started, singing along to it. And it's some top 40, hip hop music.
Ego alert. Ego alert.
But it was funny because I was thinking, like, none of these people even know why they're getting excited about this. They were just told that this is cool. And so they're all getting excited because the cool song is being played. I have no idea what it is, but to them it's really exciting.
And
right?
Oh
God, it's freaky.
And 10 days later it's going to be a new thing that's cool, and the old one will just be cast aside like yesterday's trash.
It's just funny because they were all just acting out their roles, and they were all, maybe late teens, and nothing there was genuine, but I know that they were all genuine people. One of them sneezed and I said, "Bless you." And she said, "Thank you."
Right? I know, and it's weird because I was thinking, like, isn't everybody getting it now? Like, aren't the light? I mean, isn't there just like this mass kind of like all this other crap is being dropped? I'm like, okay, this is definitely for some and not for others, and I knew that, but sometimes, at 8 a.m. when you're just you're out of coffee and you go to the grocery store and you're just looking around and you see the magazines and you're just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me, right? Like, what year is it? You can't even believe that people are still operating from this. I thought it was like some weird 80s thing, even though the rock and roll was awesome. It was, something you would think. I mean, I thought that there was some sort of wave, kind of like the 100th monkey. I don't want to say that it hasn't happened yet, but there is still so much promotion of that, and that's what school systems are, kind of based on. But the thing is, if you were to sit down with any one of those people and really dig a little bit deeper, there's real emotion and real issues and real insecurity.
Yeah.
Conversations. And so it gets really, really difficult because it's obnoxious. So I to kind of I'm like, okay, well, if I really want this to happen, then I better take the I better take the initiative. And that's why I'm very transparent. I'll talk about, addictions I was caught up in my past, or might still struggle with from time to time. And like, okay, well, how can we really get into a deeper conversation? Because, this is just acting out, similar to, if we're sitting around like a table with our family members, and Uncle so-and-so has got some issue, but he's instead gonna, throw a weird energy around instead of just say it like it is. I mean, we got to learn how to say it like it is, because these are real, genuine souls that are crying out. And that's what I love about what you were saying before, because that, they are real under the surface, but my God, whatever they're operating from on the outside makes it painful to try and relate.
Well, I know they're real
Absolutely.
people too, and that's the funny thing about it is I'm watching these girls, and there's a time in my life where I'd just be annoyed by them because they're acting, loud and obnoxious. But I looked at them like, these are just, these are just kids. These are just people. They're just so misguided. They don't know what's going on. Underneath it all, it's the same as me. She's exactly like me.
And what we seek to do in our work is to strip away those layers of distractions and diversions and things that just suck the energy away. And that's the thing, is that once those distractions have been removed, it's completely natural for people to ascend to that higher level when there's nothing holding that process back.
But it's difficult too, because, for example,
Yes.
I don't watch television and I'm here in nature now and everything's quiet and peaceful. And I have all these chances to work on myself. And I notice, wow, it sure is quiet. What am I going to do now? Because we're so used to the noise. So you have to kind of, look within, which is very, very difficult. I've known a lot of people with cell phone addiction. I am here. We're having, again, connectivity problems. I've known
Can you hear us, Laura?
Laura will be back. I've been doing a lot of work here energetically to try to keep this connection alive. This is why another reason I say no Wi-Fi.
Yep.
We don't use Wi-Fi in our home, and it's not just about the EMF, but there's so much it can be controlled through wireless frequency. If you bypass it, you don't allow those entities to interrupt calls like this. So I always say, if you can, go hardwired. I have this happen all the time.
It certainly helps.
Yeah.
Laura, are you here now?
Back, Laura? Well, we will get Laura back here.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
she's back.
There you are.
See, we were talking about Wi-Fi. This is the problem with Wi-Fi. One of many. But I'm glad you're back. So while we're on the topic of what do you do with that quiet space, and how do you, once you've cleared away that noise and made that space for yourself, then what's the next step towards healing?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not quite the person I was a long time ago. I mean, we're always constantly changing. I mean, I do like silence, but yeah, I process a lot. I still have the inability to even have downtime. I mean, if I want to watch a movie or just, like just let go for a little while or just like not think, I have a really, really hard time. Like I really like, it has to be like so like profound to get my attention. I'm not saying it's because I'm so profound, but sometimes it could be like, completely stupid and I'm like, okay, cool. Like giggle, giggle. But it's every day is different. And I just have to sort of, understand that. Same thing with food. That's why I've declared myself a flexitarian. I can't.
I love that. I love that.
I don't want rules. I want to go with the flow. I want to be able to hear myself, and that's how I want to be, with friends and partners, I mean, I would like, I guess, a foundation, to operate from, but with enough flexibility to be able to continue to grow and expand and keep it fresh and but not run away, because there's fear connected to, oh, I said this last week. And, it's like, the highest form of love, for the body, the self, the consciousness, and each other, and yes, there might be like, okay, well, let's keep it exclusive. Those are the kind of boundaries I appreciate. But, as far as like, do we really want to stay living in this area? Do we really need to stay, do I really need to just never, ever, ever touch cheese again? I mean, yeah, I think you get my point. And I'm starting
I
to.
totally do. We're the
Yes.
same. Gabe and I are the same. We eat a very healthy diet, but we don't make rules. Sometimes people have rules and they're doing amazingly well with it. Like my friend Jessica Sentman, the Fruitarian. She had a show called The Fruitarian on my last radio network, and what a fascinating lifestyle choice. I mean, she literally only eats fruit, and she thrives on it. And I have a feeling that if I did that, I'd be better off. But it's just not in my wiring.
Well, I've seen you after 5 kumquats. It's not pretty.
Well, kumquats are very hard to eat. I got a whole bag of them right now. I got to get through, given to me by somebody who has a tree in LA. They're hard to eat, but I also am very flexible about what I eat. Although I eat primarily vegetarian food. But actually, that is a very interesting thing to get into. Is what is your take on physical health? Because I noticed you said something that I also love, the meat suit. You referred to the body as the meat suit, which to me is also hilarious. But we have to nurture the body because we're currently residing in it, and it is the vehicle right now for our spirit. So what is your take on health and your recommendations?
Well, I think we all have, different body types, different needs, different blood types, different genetic factors, different things that we're healing and different things that we're needing to, transcend that may have been a barrier that we might not realize we're challenged to, tackle. Now, when it comes to like being a vegetarian, that's easy. Like I don't want to eat animals. Like I love animals. And that was my approach. I mean, I was vegan most of my life. Well, okay, up until, I mean, obviously when I was a little kid and I couldn't control what I was eating, I wasn't vegan. Uh, but when I was able to, have a conscious say about what I was eating, and I, went into the food industry, I was vegan, but I actually went to farms and I sold uh, grass-fed, organically raised meat, and I shipped and delivered to chemically sensitive people that actually required that food to stay alive. So who was I to say that they shouldn't eat that just because I have a certain philosophy or belief? I mean, and sometimes I feel like it's more than a belief. It's like, well, this is just how it should be. But again, I mean, that doesn't, I watch nature shows and like nature's devouring nature. So I'm like, okay, well, but then, we're different in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, George Carlin once said that all this planet is
you know,
just a revolving buffet with weather.
True.
right. I love that. So I mean, I give the respect to the person, and the only thing that I encourage for anybody is, have it be clean, organic, and in a place of like honoring the sacred energies, that life is a gift, and if you're going to eat something that used to once have life, I mean, even animals, I mean, well, plants, I mean, it all has life force. We just need to really bless and honor this, because that in a way is blessing and honoring our own personal temple, and it helps us to stay in balance. So I mean, I like to say to each their own, but I have to also stand up for the fact that I'm an advocate for clean food, and everything organic and everything chemical free and non-GMO. So but
Absolutely.
with my flexibility when it comes to food isn't like crazy. I mean, for the most part, I don't really eat meat, but if I needed to, it's not like it's the end of the world, but it has to be appropriate. It has to make sense. So
Well,
Right.
that's a very sensible approach, in my opinion.
And these foods affect our vibration as well. So you have to think about what you're eating. And we do like to say a blessing before we eat. So, that we show appreciation for what we have and that the food may nourish us so we may do our work.
Absolutely.
And do you have any other recommendations? So you definitely vibrate at a high level, and you could see things that many people can't. Do you have more recommendations for detoxifying to help your body so that your mind can function better?
well, I think it's really important to know what you're missing in your diet. Pay attention to your body symptoms. If you have nervous system distress, maybe you need more B vitamins. If um, your hair is falling out, maybe you need more selenium. I think it's good to go to a nutritionist and just get an idea of like, well, what's your blood type, what are your needs, and you can just design your diet around it, and you can just live the medicine, and I think living the medicine is also, being around people that feed your soul instead of drain you, instead of people that don't understand you and make you feel uncomfortable for being you, like why would we eat,
Absolutely.
food that makes us feel like crap? Why would we be around people that make us feel like crap? So we
Mhm.
just got to like be bold
True.
and say, hey, I want to make these changes, because why not? Because at the end of the day, you're the one who wakes up with you, and you're going to feel better and better and better, even if it means that you're going to have to break something for a little while and it's going to be hard to let go of. It's very temporary compared to what you're entering, that, and that's, the same thing with the matrix. People are always fighting the system, but it's like, just unplug, stop feeding it, stop being in battle with it, and then
Yeah.
still being a part of it, like disengage and put your energies where they count. So,
That's so true.
I,
That's so
I think
true. And battling with it is exactly what they want you to do. But once you disengage, they have absolutely zero defense for that.
yeah, it's like a breakup, once you're away from that bad partner, or that, that cheater, liar, or and corrupted person, and you say, hey, I'm moving on, they can't get the best of you anymore, and that's what we have
That's
to do,
right.
with this kind of energy, or else we're just going to constantly complain. But we only have ourselves to blame if we're continuing to feed it and we're continuing to allow it.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Archonic influence on Earth, or Ascornic influence, um, and how are we being manipulated, and what can we do to unplug from that and literally turn it upside down, and come out victorious?
Laura, you there?
See, this
So
is what happens
the word,
every
okay, I'm
time.
here. I'm
Okay,
here.
Okay,
there you are.
every time we mention them, we get
Right.
cut off.
Yeah, I got back. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yep.
Okay, so we got like archons, we've got archangels and archdemons. So we're dealing with the duality of light and dark, So as far as I'm concerned, when we are running a certain energy, we attract, forces from outside of us. If we're in a place of anger and rage, we might attract, energies that are either warrior like, or are like, yeah, you have every right to be pissed off. Or, the thing is, I mean, we have our physical attractions, and we have our energies and entities and beings and things that are beyond, the physical eye. Well, archons really like to feed on wounds and things that are not healed. um, if they're archdemons, if they're archangels, they tend to be guides and much more supportive to our process. But ultimately, I feel we need to merge those energies and get in touch with our light and dark, so that, we are able to do the shadow work, we're able to embrace our darkness, we're able to purify the soil so that we can plant seeds of our higher consciousness in that soil and create new life. That way we're not just leaning towards the light, or leaning, towards the dark, or lost in our own crap. We're able to actually bring those two energies together and create some alchemy. But the archons, like if you're dealing with somebody that's, definitely like in a lot of pain, or wounded, or fragmented, very often you can see just the influence of these beings that are exacerbating, everything, making everything a lot more difficult. Now that can be helpful, because it can be like, it can push you to the edge so that you make the changes that you need to make. But very often, with some people, we see just, some level of possession, which is, you know not always easy to deal with.
Well, yeah, we've seen that a lot.
So you're saying that there are good archons and bad archons?
Yeah, if we look at the ARC, like archangel, archon, archdemon, I've always I've always approached it as light and dark. Now, we are in a world of duality where there's light and dark. I don't think it's positive or negative. Well, I mean, the dark, depending on, there's certain things that are harmful towards other people's free will, abusive towards those that don't deserve it, or that are innocent, that don't have a voice. I mean, that's a whole nother ball game there. I mean, there is evil, we know that. But the beings of light, yes, we can immediately say, well, that's more positive. But if we're too polarized towards the positive, and we don't go into that shadow, then we're not really moving into these next levels of our experience. we're staying in this sort of chakra system. So when we move into the galactic chakras, we're actually doing monadic integration. We're connecting with higher gamos, which is the balancing of the masculine and feminine, which is also, you know, the healing of, you know, our DNA and the earth grids and things connected to the electron, you know, the electrical male energy and the magnetic female energy and how they interact. So the more we can embrace every aspect of ourselves and not, you know, deny one for the sake of the other, but is, you know, while also understanding what part of ourselves should be more in charge than the others. I mean, we don't want, you know, our dark shadow side to be making decisions on our behalf. I mean, that might trigger us to need to do some inner work and maybe close the door and meditate for a little while. You know, it's really just about being conscious and being just aware of the many aspects. I mean, look, there's 78 cards in a tarot deck. There's 12 zodiac signs. There's actually 13 signs, 14 signs. And there's so much to us that the more we can embrace it and work with it and bring in wholeness and balance, the more the greater part of ourselves is going to, you know, be, you know, running the show without denying these other parts that actually have a place. And that's how we heal the Lucifer rebellions and this negative ego energy, is not to deny it, but to invite it in and say, okay, well, what do we need to do to purify it? What do we need to do to clear it? Let's give it, you know, love instead of condemnation, because this has been the problem. I mean, religion has created a lot of repression, but the opposite of that is, you know, the opposite, which is, you know, almost like hedonism and going into like this whole other thing. It's like, but we're right and left. You know, there's a left-hand path and the right-hand path. Well, we got right and left hands. Why don't we just have both and just be balanced?
The happy medium. Yes.
Right.
And we encounter a lot of that in our work, the people who are just so polarized one way or the other way. And I wanted to specifically ask you about the people who are so neurotically fixated on the whole love and light thing.
The new cage movement.
Yes.
I mean, it's ridiculous because some of these new cage people cannot even think about the shadow and will flee in the face of the shadow and say, no, I need to surround myself just with love and light, just love and light. And it drives me up the wall.
It drives both of us up the wall. and I wanted to ask you specifically how, because I'm sure you have had the same issue. How do you deal with the extreme polarization to that side of the people who mean well, but they're just not finding that middle ground?
Yeah, I never did so well with those kind of folks. And I'm not like a dark negative person. I think anybody who knows me, I mean, or at least I like to think, I mean, I'm a pretty positive person. And but, you know, there'd be anything from, oh, you know, like, what's wrong with her? Or like, geez, you know, she's going through a lot, you know, and like, there was always this like, yes, Laura's going through a lot. What do you want to do about it, people? Like, I'm going through a lot. Okay. I'm not just like skipping along. Like everything's just great because my thoughts and beliefs are just wishing for the best. It's like, no, I'm going to go into the underbelly. I'm going to go into places that nobody wants to go. And that's what I signed up for. And so, yeah, I know it makes people uncomfortable. So I have compassion. But at the same time, it's just like, you really got to have like, you got to be real disconnected from yourself to spend so much time picking on somebody or paying so much attention to everything that they do, eat, say, or breathe. It's just like, lay off already, you know? So I do this FU therapy and I don't give a crap. It's just like, I just am how I am. And sometimes it's not maybe going to be that pleasant, but it's the only way I can stay balanced and okay. And like I said, if I have to apologize, if it was not showing up in a place where maybe it made sense or, you know, those around me weren't resonating, I do my best to try and adjust, but I can only be me. And if that's, you know, something I have to feel bad for at the end of the day, I can absolutely accept it. I'd much rather that than, you know, be in denial or be somebody I'm not. So there you go.
Well, that makes sense. And you're a public figure. I mean, you're in the public eye, and people will have certain expectations, and they'll also kind of sometimes blame. I don't know if this happens to you. I get blamed sometimes. I get blamed for the weather, literally. Like people will literally get mad at
Oh
me
my
if it
God.
didn't rain. So, I mean, I know I'm a rainmaker, but it's not always supposed to rain. And, I'm working as hard as I can here.
Oh, these people just come out of the woodwork. It's just,
But anyway, I'm not trying to complain. But what I appreciate about what you said is you have a very balanced way of viewing people. And there are so many kinds of people in this world, and they're all at different levels. And a lot of people who are into the new age thing, and I mean, I call it the new cage movement. I got that from Cameron Day, because I think it is, in a way, a very limiting way of seeing things. But they mean well, but they're a little bit, misguided sometimes. But at the same time, on the other side of the fence, there are people who
Hello?
don't want to know, and we're here. So there are people on the other side that don't want to know anything about anything spiritual, and so that's also misguided. Laura, are you with us? Well, I do appreciate that balance. When Gabe and I were in Bakersfield recently for an art walk, we experienced mostly people who were absolutely oblivious to what we were talking about. We were selling orgonite pieces at an art walk, and we were giving out information about EMF awareness. And I would have to say that the majority of people were completely oblivious. And then there were some that were mildly receptive. And then there were those, mostly children, who completely got it without us having to say anything.
oh, they just glommed
Aw.
onto it right away.
And it was like the sweetest thing in the world. This one little girl was with her mom, and she was looking earnestly at her mom, and she picked up one of our most simple tower busters. They don't even look like much. It's just strictly, a healing device, and we use them as tactical orgonite in the
They
field.
just look
And-
like gray hockey
yeah,
pucks.
and she was holding on to it, and she kept looking at her mom like, "We have to get this." And her mom was like, "I don't know. And I said, "Look, you can have it for $5."
Because we sell them for 10.
Yeah, I'm like, "You can have it for $5. You guys need it.
It's going to break the bank that
and
much.
I said, if it breaks the bank, you can have it for $5 because you need it. So, we recovered our costs. and a little girl got the energy device that she
Aw.
needed. And I couldn't believe, it was so sweet, the look on her face and the earnestness that she needed this device.
Because with the young kids, the slate is relatively clean. There's no judgments or prejudices. There's nothing coloring that. It's just they're attracted to the energy, and there's nothing that's inhibiting them in just going straight to it. And that's such a wonderful thing.
We're talking about people
I
being at
know.
various different levels, and people see things completely differently. And you are very accepting of the different levels that people are at, which is something that I think is very important.
Well, I'd like to think I am. I mean, I go through a lot myself, and I hope that people can cut me slack. I think, there's certain things I don't have tolerance for because they don't deserve tolerance. And then I think it's kind of like a tough love, tough shit, like it's just not okay. But I mean, I have always self-reflected, maybe to the point of going overboard, because I will never reach that place of, oh, you have it all figured out, or, oh, you're just, you're enlightened. I'll never, and maybe I will. I don't want to say never, but gosh, that was one thing that I tell myself, don't ever say never. But
my dad has actually reached that point. He is completely enlightened. He's learned all that he needs to know as he sits on his couch and watches his awful TV.
right?
He has reached the culmination of his education, and I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah, Gordon still has a lot to learn.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But that's how a lot of people are in their older age, is they say, that's it, I've learned it all, I'm done. I'm just going to go watch this the Pawn Stars show and
well, one thing I've noticed
of that, I can't let myself go like that. Anyway.
One thing I've noticed, a particular behavior pattern that I've noticed, is just the reinforcing of old, obsolete things, obsolete opinions,
true.
beliefs. Just a rather than even casually branching off into new areas, foreign areas, terra incognita, what have you. There's an obsession with going into the past and just just rehashing and recreating.
Is that why rockabilly is so popular in East LA?
Perhaps.
And it's like so many people are just rehashing old styles, and it's all very 3D stuff, right?
Well, there's revivalism in music, but there's revivalism in people's personal lives where they just stick with what's familiar to them, a pig in a poke, as they say. And it's
oh my God, you guys
that is
so, I mean, really though, why are we doing this to ourselves? I mean, I look around me and I see so many people doing the lamest things. Like, I'm going back to Bakersfield again. I have so many examples from Bakersfield. We were sitting
You're
there.
going to talk about the animal hats. I know that.
Oh, yes. When we were in Bakersfield at the Art Walk. Okay. So let's just like rewind to the year 2001.
Is there any gray matter under that animal hat of yours, sir?
Bakersfield, California is stuck in the year 2001. And it was remarkable. There were people wearing punk rock clothes. Okay, that is very 2001. I saw someone wearing an animal hat. That is very 2006. And I'm so sorry to be bringing up all these silly styles, but I was looking around me. I'm like, what is this?
Well, Sharon asked me a couple days later, are these people in 3 to 4 years going to be walking around with Smiths and Morrissey shirts?
Absolutely.
And I said, God, I hope not.
They will be, and they're going to make me embarrassed to be a Smiths fan, as everybody in Los Angeles already has. But what is it about this rehashing and like clinging to the past era, which is already over as far as I'm concerned? We're on to a new time now.
And the obsessive nature to which it exists, it's not casual at all. It is clinging to it like grim death.
Yeah. What is this, Laura?
Well, I think it's kind of like the security blanket and just all these things like, when we're kids, there's, how can we gracefully keep you addicted? Or how can we keep you addicted without making you feel like you're an addict, Now, the ones that actually turn into addicts are the ones that are trying to break the programming, that fall into the gutter for a little while. And they're like, okay, alcoholism or, drug addiction. And I have a lot, of understanding about that world. And I'm not saying everybody's the same, but, in order to break something, sometimes you have to go to the extreme in order to, come back around and say, okay, been there, done that. Now I'm clean. I'm straight, I'm done with all of that. But the matrix energies, the reptilian agenda, the negative alien agenda, and I don't like to put labels on it, but here we go, because that's why we call an oak tree, so we can say, hey, look at that tree, that's an oak. So, okay, well, there's this agenda, but that's a lot nicer to think about it, an oak tree compared to a negative alien agenda. It is designed to addict us. And that's all there is to it. And the pharmaceuticals, the medical industry, everything about depression, anger, frustration, ADD. And we know it. We know how all this goes. And so, and I just think that that's, what they're operating from. And in order to break it, we don't, people don't need to go to the extreme, but you can go, to on a path of inspiration, and find the things that open your mind and inspire you and stir your passions, instead of almost break you and kill you. But, to each their own. We all have our own experiences. I've played around with, both, roads. But back to your original question though, which was, can you just remind me?
Oh, I think I said, what is going on here? Well, I was referring to, what is this desperate clinging? That's what we're talking about.
Clinging to obsolete.
The security blanket.
Oh, things obsolete.
Yeah,
the security blanket. And it's the same thing with like dessert. It's the same thing with, anything that stimulates a part of your brain that just says, yes, it's familiar. It reminds me of mom. It reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of this. Anything to keep us from moving forward. And it's encouraged. Everything that will keep us from ascending is what's encouraged in our culture. And so there's nothing wrong, with, music, like, okay, that's great and all. I love, things based in the past, and, museums are fun. So it's not that there's an issue with the past, but if you can't, put it into a perspective that can allow you to move forward and either take it to the next level or integrate that level of wisdom into your current reality, then yeah, you might be stuck. But, the beauty is that we're kind of in this game of lost and found, getting stuck and unstuck. The problem is that when we get comfortable with it and we don't recognize it.
You know,
Yeah.
I get sad sometimes when I think about 20 years ago, and sometimes I think, why can't it be like that? I miss when it was actually like a novel and okay thing to be in a band. I mean, I was a musician for years. My entire life I've been a musician, and I miss the days when, you know, you could live in a place in LA, you know, you could work like 20 hours a week and have an apartment and a car and do your art and survive. But
And not be
and
mired in credit card
yeah,
debt.
I mean, I miss those days. I miss
I
the days
hear you.
before
I really
GMOs
do.
when I could, yeah, I mean, I could eat out in a restaurant and not worry about
Well, I think
what kind of
that's
oil.
I don't think we want to lose that stuff. You know, I think that's the timeless stuff. I think that's where creativity will always drive us forward. And even though we might play, you know, those hits or those songs, you know, that remind us of the past, I mean, there's always writing a new song. I mean, I was in bands too, and the rent. I mean, like, when did rent ever cost this much? I remember being shocked because lunch money was more than 35 cents, let alone like, what the hell is going on with rent? Like, I can't even believe it. Like, I lived out of a vehicle for 10, 15 years, and you know, and all that I needed to my name was my mountain bike and my drum, and that was it, and I was fine.
Oh, that's nice.
And
You're a drummer too. I drum too.
nice. Yeah, so I'm like right there with you, and I think, you know, that's just a part of the foundation of who we are as creative beings. And I think that these agendas are taking us further and further away. When we think about transhumanism, it's sort of replacing the progression of what a natural creative being would be doing, you know. And so somebody like you and me, I mean, we'd be like jamming, right? And we will, and that's what people like you and me do. And the culture though, and having it maybe more in your face, or like, this is just, you know, what other people are doing too, that might be a little bit lost. But I say, you know, let's keep that alive, because that's where the goodie, I think that's where the good stuff is.
Yeah.
But not with the animal hats. That's gotta
Right,
go.
depends what
That's
kind of
next.
animal.
No problem.
It depends what kind of animal.
Ocelots, possums, you know, that kind
No
of stuff.
pandas. That's just, it's no more pandas, please.
Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah.
The horse has been beaten to death.
Yeah.
The horse is fine though. Anyway, we're coming. We got about 10 or so minutes left. I wanted to add something here. I don't know about you, but I am seeing a lot of people breaking the programming, some in little ways, some in very large ways, and everything in between, of course. However, of course, we're enforced in the media and in social circles, scientific circles, academic, political, all the different ways that people are programmed now. We're being enforced the other way, that people are going further into the blue pill realm, to use that analogy. But if you look a little deeper than just that one layer, if you peel back and look at the man behind the curtain, you'll see that there are a lot of people, more so every day, that are just breaking programs or being more receptive to breaking programs, or just, again, they're all at various levels of the process. I'm sure you see the same thing in your day-to-day life too, right, Laura?
Definitely. I mean, I see, you know, where, oh my gosh, you know, this person has completely blown this one open, but oh my God, I can't believe they're thinking of voting for them, you know, or they would even consider that that's like, you know, an okay product, or that drinking tap water is all right. But yet, you know, in this other part of their world, it's like, wow, they're, you know, leading the charge. They're the expedition leader in that particular, you know, category. And so that brings us back to unity consciousness and the importance of sharing codes and sharing information, and merging with each other, and being open to each other's ideas, and getting out of this right or wrong and ego stuff. But, you know, look for inspiration, and then, you know, put it upon yourself to be the example.
Yeah.
Because that vibration is going to be infectious. But yeah, I mean, I see it, but at the same time, you know, it's just sort of like you get this great feeling about something, and then like, oh, whoa, like the record skips, but then it's like, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not freaking perfect. So, you know, whatever.
Oh, I'm glad you said that too. I know people
no, I'm not perfect.
like this.
No, God.
Well, I mean, I know, I think you are pretty perfect, but I do know people
I
who
think
are.
it's easy. This is not like shocking information. Laura's not perfect. I think anybody would easily say like, yeah, Laura's got some serious issues, and that's fine. I'm cool with it.
Well, I mean, what I mean is I'm glad you said that piece about how somebody might be really amazing at one thing and maybe they're still eating McDonald's, because I do know people who are extremely gifted in certain areas, like, for example, energetically, just unbelievably gifted, but maybe
And then other
they have
areas,
some things where I'm like shocked that they did that.
I can't believe you're actually doing that.
But that's, I'm so glad you said it.
Not in a
because,
judgmental way, but just in an objective,
look,
like,
people will be
Well, it
shocked
just
that I watch
shows you.
Beavis and Butthead. Okay, I like Beavis and
Well, that's
Butthead. I
awesome.
like South
That's
Park.
pretty awesome.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, no more of that.
Oh my god.
But no,
That's awesome.
but no, it's an absolutely wonderful thing that's going on. And I always remind myself when I sometimes forget, and I like to remind other people too, that the parasitic freak out is only a reaction to the programming that's being broken and their food source just dwindling and dwindling further and further. And they're losing the game and they know it. And this is all just their reaction to their defeat, which very soon will turn into a rout.
Yeah, and there's
Most
always going to be the
definitely.
strengths and weaknesses. You'll notice just at a family gathering or even in a group of friends, there's going to be somebody thriving in their relationship. They seem to have the ultimate connection, and and somebody might have health issues, and somebody might love their job, somebody might hate their job. I mean, this is the diversity that we're dealing with, and so we want to be able to speak enough languages to address those deficiencies with compassion. And that's how we're going to raise the vibration instead of trying to convert somebody that's already feeling pretty good about what they're doing. Let's go for that place that they actually need, that positive blast instead of that archonic thing that's going to vampire off of them and continue to keep them stuck in that program. So I think that's our responsibility right now as a collective.
Absolutely. And responsibility is the key. There is a definite shirking of responsibility going on. And that's what needs to be changed for the paradigm to be shifted.
Well, Laura, we are almost out of time. So why don't you remind us again of your website and any upcoming events?
My website's cosmicgaiasophia.com. And let's see, what month are we in? March?
Oh, you're
Yep.
going to be at Contact in the Desert.
Yeah, April. Free Your Mind Conference, if all goes well. I'll be at Contact in the Desert. I should be at Lightning in a Bottle, and some other events that are rolling out. And yeah, I'm just kind of going with the flow with everything. I just moved, and so my ultimate goal right now is just to stay grounded and to handle where some of these difficult energies like to get in my space. So my project is Project Me and Unity, and just really loving and appreciating you guys, and thank you for having me on. So yeah, cosmicgaiasophia.com. I post a lot on Facebook, so you can pretty much keep up with my stuff there. I put out a newsletter, but I'll keep my site updated as best as I can.
Excellent. Well, check out cosmicgaiasophia.com and also check out our website, thekembo.com, where you can learn all about chemtrails, geoengineering, EMF, and how we destroy all of those problems with our own loving energy of orgone. Laura, thank you infinitely for being with us today. We love talking with you.
Yes, it's absolutely wonderful. We'll have to have you on again sometime and talk about
I would love that.
MK
Thank
Ultra and all that other glorious stuff.
Wonderful.
Thanks
I
so
look
much.
forward to being with you guys soon. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Join us next week for another exciting episode of The Human Frequency on American Freedom Radio.
Thanks for listening.